What's up? PipSnipers here, back for another update. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at API3, and a lot of people have given up on this project, but I actually think that it's just the beginning, right? It's a fairly new project. It came out back in yeah, 2020. It came out in 2020, but it hasn't really seen a bull market yet. And this looks like pure Wyckoff accumulation as long as it stays above 0.6876 on the daily time frame. So as long as we don't get a daily closure back down below this low, I think it should be good for a what's called a jump across the creek. So I'll get into that a little bit more in depth. But what we see over here for API3 is pure Wyckoff accumulation. This would be schematic number one. Okay, so um, what you have in the market is your preliminary supply. So this is your preliminary supply here. So it's basically one last upswing before you enter into your capitulation, or in other words, your selling climax. So this is your selling climax right here. And then you have an automatic rally to the upside because the composite operator buys up all of that. The composite operator buys up all of that supply entering into the market from the fearful retail dumping their bags. So it causes an automatic rally, which is right here. And then you come down for your secondary test. This is your secondary test. And then you have your failed breakout of the range. Now your failed breakout, your first failed breakout always creates the top of your range. And sometimes with your failed breakout number two, you may have a deviation above it, making people think that we're having that full on breakout. But what it really is it's just a deviation. So after your failed breakout number two, or sorry, after your first failed breakout, you come down for your secondary test in phase B, sweeping your secondary test or your selling climax. And we did it right over here. This is your secondary test in phase B. Okay. Then we come up one more time for your second failed break. This is your second failed break. Then after your second failed break, when we zoom in here, we do see that we have what's called a creek. Now, this creek is a very painful process for a lot of holders because they don't really know what's going on. They don't know if they should keep holding or if the market is going to continue to go up because they're still stuck in the trance of this being that full-on breakout. And usually people who don't know Wyckoff and who know anything, all the other theories other than Wyckoff, sometimes they get stuck. That's why I always stress the importance of learning Wyckoff because it it outlines a schematic that you can follow along with. Now, this creek, it tends to last very long. That's why I said it's very painful. You see how long this creek phase lasted? It lasted almost 1 year. So 354 days of this creek, just oscillating back and forth, back and forth, back and forth within this wedge, right? Now, after your creek comes in, you have your spring. Now, your spring is that's usually when you enter into capitulation. That's your last pivot. Your last pivot before you have that expansion to the upside. So, as long as API3 can hold above 0.6876 on the daily time frame, then it wouldn't surprise me we have what's called a jump across the creek. So this is your creek right here, right? And then this over here would be your spring because we make a new low and we've come down to the range low. So this is the lowest recorded price on API. So this is your spring, and then you have a test. Now your test is usually the price just filling the wick. The test is usually when a lot of people panic actually. So actually more people get scared here at the test than they get scared at the spring. Because at the spring a lot of people don't have time to react. But at the test, people have time to react to that because they think it's it's going to make a new low below the spring. So what do? They sell it here, and then all of a sudden it grinds to the upside, not knowing it's just a test before your last point of support. And then you have your SOS phase to finally have that expansion to the upside. Now we would be taking a look at around that $6.50 to $8 region for TP1. Then we'd be taking a look at 10 to 1184, and then 16 to 1870 for TP3. Okay, so this is what a jump across the creek looks like. You have your creek, and it's very apparent, especially if it's in a broadening wedge formation. So I'll show you what I mean. Like, this is your jump across the creek, Wyckoff. Okay, this is my favorite schematic. Like, this is my favorite part of the schematic. I think it's everyone's favorite part of the schematic because it's finally when we finally enter into that expansion, and it tends to happen very rapidly. So let me show you guys here. Let me just try to find it. So you hear right here, right? This is actually a reaccumulation schematic. So you have your creek here, very painful experience for holders, very long and chopped out. Giving when and remember, like I said in my XRP video, when people have too much time to think, that's usually when they make the most mistakes because it's just chopping around here and they're overthinking everything. And then you have the jump across the creek. All of a sudden, you see how fast it happens over here, right here. This is your creek. I'll show you. This is your creek, you see? And this creek can manifest in many different variations. It's either an ABC or an ABCDE in a broadening wedge formation, a irregular correction, or a WXY. However it'll look like, it's still a painful process. So this is your creek, and then you have your spring, your ST, and then your jump across the creek. So the price jumps across the creek into your SOS, your last point of support, and then you have continuation up into phase E. So this is exactly what I see for API3. I think that we've just finished the spring, and I could say the same thing about a lot of ERC20 tokens, considering a lot of tokens have come back down to their range low, except the ISO ones. So we finished the spring, and right now, going forward, I would just be looking for us to dangle here at these lows, fill in the wick, take its time, chop around, and then all of a sudden we should see that jump across. Then you have so this is your spring, this is your test, this is your last point of support. You have your SOS phase. We may or may not come back down for your backup phase, and then we have continuation higher. Now remember, this backup phase may not happen. It may just continue on higher. Like for example with XRP never really had the backup phase. I'll show you XRP here. So look at XRP. Like when XRP broke out, it didn't really come back down for your backup phase. It just went off. So sometimes in crypto it may not happen depending on how much pent up energy there is within the asset. Now when we take a look at API3, we do see that the daily RSI is reached into extreme oversold territory. Look at this daily RSI here. Very, very significant. Very significant moves happening over here. Okay. And we've also been in 3 years of accumulation. So very nice setup to trade as long as we stay above this invalidation level. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Peace out and take it easy. See you in the next one.